we will put all the questions at the end. Okay, we will just go ahead with the flow, and then we will answer the questions one by one. Okay, what the way we are teaching is very slow so that you understand. Okay, do not worry. So now, if you look at any large AEM website, obviously the content that the visitor or the end user sees should not be editable. But typically, a content management system or AEM allows you to create websites. A website is a combination of pages, and every page is made up of small reusable components. For example, if you see this page, this is a logo, this is a top navigation component, this is a search component. Right? This way you break it. This is an image component, and then if you see this is a grid component. So this way you can break it down. So which means my same AEM author server has to run as author, and my same A. Hey Anvesh, are you on EST time zone? Anvesh, are you on the bridge? Can you unmute, please?
Yeah, I'm in CST now.
Oh, CST. All right, fine, cool. Sorry, guys. So you have the same AEM instance, right? You need one kind, the same server. Okay, so AEM basically runs as a web server. I'm going to share that with you. It has to run as a editable instance, okay, where authors can edit every section within the page. Right? And then you need one read-only. The same server can act both as editable and read-only. So this is called as authoring instance, and this is called as publish instance. The visitor of the website will actually be visiting the publish instance. The author will be dragging and dropping the components and editing the layout of the page on author. So the data needs to propagate from author instance to the publish instance. This process is called publishing. Okay. So how does AEM run basically? What is it that we need for the server to run? Okay, few memory requirements and all those things. Okay, let me capture it here. All you need is a jar and a license file with you. This jar and license file I'm going to distribute to you. On your machine, we need only one thing. We need JDK 1.7 or higher version like 1.8 to be running on your machine. And then you need to set the Java home environment variable to the JDK path. Memory requirement, minimum 8 GB of RAM is required. If you have 16 GB, very good. If not, have at least 8 GB. Because your AEM consumes about 2.5 to 3 GB of RAM. Your operating system has around 2 to 3 GB, so that there itself 6 GB is gone. So that's the reason we say we need 8 GB of RAM and JDK. That's the only thing required to start the AEM server. Okay, and then the jar that I'm going to hand over, right, it will be something like this. Right? I'm going to hand over the 6.3 instance to you, as well as 6.2 instance. Okay, both I'm going to hand over with you. Now, once I hand over the instance, right, this is the jar and the instance. First time when I hand over, okay, you will place this jar and license in one folder called author folder. Now the question is that same jar can behave as author and the same jar can behave as publish. Now how do I make that jar behave as author and how do I make that jar behave as publish? Okay, so there is a naming convention for the jar file. Okay, the naming convention is CQ-mode. Mode can be either author or publish. Okay, it behaves as author or publish based on how you name that jar file. CQ-mode-p. Every server runs on a particular port, right? So the convention over here is your AEM author instance runs on even number port. So that's why see CQ for an author instance, I'm replacing mode here with author. This is the syntax. P followed by port number. Okay, 4502. This port should not be used by any other process, so that my server can start. Now you may ask me one question. On a single machine, can I have more than one instance running? Right? Absolutely possible. The only thing is that second instance needs to run on a unique port. So that's why my second instance is if it has to run on the same machine, I'll say cq-author-p4504.jar. The same jar, I need to put it into another folder, right? For now here it's in one folder. This will be author one. Okay, let's rename this to author instance. You will create another folder. Okay, you will create another folder, call it author2, and copy paste the same jar and the license into that other folder. Now because I have my JDK up and running, I see that this is a Java executable. Okay. Now once I do this, right, how to start the server? Okay. Again here there are three ways to start the server, AEM server. The first way is you just go and double click on the jar file. Okay. The first time when you double click on the jar file, my server is already up and running over here. So let's shut down this. And let me copy this to location. This jar and license I'll be sharing with you. So you're going to create a folder and let's call this author. You just call it as author. Okay, let's keep it simple. And this jar and license, which I'm going to share with you on Google Drive, will be placed in author one. Okay. So the first step over here, the first way of starting AEM server is just double click on this jar file. Right? You should see this Java executable icon once your JDK is up and running and the Java home is set. So I need to release the port over here. Just give me a moment. Let me go ahead and close the Java process tree. Hold on.
We have to have Eclipse here.
No, not required yet. For starting AEM, we don't need Eclipse. Okay. When you double click, the first time installation of the AEM will take about 6 to 7 minutes. The moment I double click, observe what happened. One CRX quick start folder automatically got generated, and then there is a launch bar where the server startup is showing here. Okay, you need to wait. Okay, so how to troubleshoot what is happening? Just give me a moment. One moment, I'll be back. So now you might ask me one question, okay, how to troubleshoot what is happening when I start the server? To access any AEM server, there is a standard format. Okay, the standard format to access any AEM server is HTTP followed by server name. I'm running on localhost now, so I do not have any domain. So server name is localhost. Which port am I running? Right? I will add a colon 4502, and then the first URL you need to remember. All this will be in your notes. Don't worry. Okay. When you go to system, what is happening when I start the server? When you go to this console, it will ask you for username and password. There is something called as bundles over here. We don't know what a bundle is still. The bundles, right? Initially, everything will be in installed state and less bundles will be in active state. So for the startup to be completed, all the bundles need to be in the active state. So there is a transition of these bundles from installed to active. So this 345 active, when I refresh it again after some time, right, it became 437. So when can I say that the server has started properly is when all the bundles are in the active state. So if you see the progress bar, now all 446 are active. That is when you would see that this is completed and the installation took 180 seconds is like 6 minutes, right? So I've added this. What happens when I start? So somebody says, hey, I'm on production and my server is not working. The first thing you will do to troubleshoot is straight away go to system console and see how many bundles are in the active state. So every bundle has a status associated to it here, right? This is a state. What is a bundle? We'll have the topic, but if that note I have added over here. You go to system console and there is a transition of the bundles from installed to active state. The meaning of a bundle is it's a jar file. Now what do I mean by a jar file, right? A jar file stands for Java archive file. It is a collection of all the compiled classes, right? Bundled together, put together. So a bundle is nothing but a jar with some metadata on it, right? If you click on any bundle, you would see that there is metadata. We are going to have a detailed discussion in the future sessions, but at a high level, this is what you need to know. So which means when I start the AEM server, some jar files are getting deployed on a container and it is getting started. Now AEM is used to host web applications over here. Do you agree with me? For example, citrix.com is used to hold a website, right? Which means uh, to hold any website, what is it that we need? We need a web server. Okay, the web server will host a website. Now you might ask me one question, hey, just bringing this, how it will host a website, right? Now when I start AEM, there is a built-in web server within AEM that is getting started. Okay, and that web server itself is running as a bundle here. OSGi bundle means jar. Okay, so if you see what is Apache Jetty, Eclipse Jetty provides a web server. Okay, this is a Jetty is a web server, right, which is used to host a website. So that Jetty itself is getting started as a bundle here, and this is what is hosting the website. So when I start AEM, if somebody asks you which web server we are using, it uses the Apache Jetty web server, which itself is running as a OSGi bundle. I will take all the questions at the last. Okay, just hold on to your thoughts. That's the first way of starting the server. Now when you start the server, how to stop it is the next question, right? So an easy thing would be to just close this, okay, but that should never be done because it's going to crash your AEM instance. Okay, so you always need to do a graceful termination of the server, right? Which means there is a toggle switch over here. Okay, just click on this toggle switch and then it does the shutdown. It'll take about 20-30 seconds for the port to be released. Okay, now if you go and try to access server name followed by port number, that shouldn't be accessible. Do you see this? The site can't be reached because it has released the port. That's the first way of installation and shutdown of the server. The second way of installing the server, right? Whenever you have any jar command, whenever you have any jar, right? In Java, to execute any jar, there is a command available. Okay, so that command would be something like, I'll go to this. So when you want to execute, the second way is starting the AEM instance by using command prompt. Be very mindful of the keywords that I'm using, right? Going forward, when we have discussions, try to use those keywords, okay? So that it'll be any company, any organization you go, you need to be aligned with these right keywords. So over here, right, I'll have to switch to the location where the jar resides, and I'll say CMD. Okay. Now over here, how am I going to start the jar, right? So I'll say Java. But whenever you have a jar, you will say Java minus jar and just give the name of the jar file. Right, I will say the name of the jar file over here is CQ hyphen jar, right? Just entering this is going to start, right? If I say enter, it's going to launch the jar, execute the jar and start up the server. Okay. Now you feel that my AEM, right, it is a large application and I feel that I need to allocate more in Java. Where is the memory getting allocated? We have two areas in memory, right? One is heap memory and one is stack memory. All the variables that I write will be in the stack. The objects are allocated memory on my heap. Now, when you think of a large application, you might have thousands of objects in your enterprise. So if you have less memory and your application is executing, what will happen? Less memory and you have more objects, you will get obviously out of memory error. That is not what you want. So you feel, hey, I want to allocate more memory for my application, right? So for that, it is possible that during the startup of the server, you can allocate heap memory. So how to add that? There is a tuning parameter over here called xx max PRM, XMX. XMX stands for maximum heap memory. Then that is how you tune it. So here I'm adding 1024M is nothing but 1 GB I'm allocating memory during the startup. There is also another area in memory called permanent generation. The meaning of permanent generation is it is a reflection of everything that the JVM holds, right? Which means your JVM is holding methods, your JVM is holding objects, variables, everything. So in your JVM, right, there is one area called, so again, when you encounter out of memory errors, right, it is a standard rule that you go and increase the size of PRM size and max heap size. Okay, so I'm going to add these two. And start the server. Okay, now you're going to see some messages over here. And then our usual way of troubleshooting the instance, we will straight away go to localhost, system console, So over here, right, there are more bundles in the installed state and less in the active. It's going to transition, right? This number is going to reduce and more is going to be in the active. So if I refresh after some time, 193 active would have become 409 active, 15 installed. After some more time, that's when the server would complete install. So see here, first time installation startup of the server took 180 seconds. Then subsequent is happening within 1.5 minutes, right? 1.5 minutes, within 60 to 90 seconds. So now, how can we say that the server started properly is when all the bundles came in the active state. So if you see, just if I say root, it will bring me to a welcome page and I'll key in admin over here. When I key in admin, your website has to load up over here. This is when you can say, okay, yes, my server started properly. That's the second way of starting. Now, in the second way of starting, how do we shut down this server, right? It's again very tempting to just go and close this. Okay. This is an abrupt termination of the server. Next time when you start, some things may break, it will crash your instance. So always the graceful way to terminate is here only see Control C to shut down the quick start server. So I will say Control C. Okay, that will shut down the server. Shutdown hook, and then pipe is being closed, and then it's going to exit all the processes and it will abort it. Now if you try to immediately, it won't release, it will take 1 minute or something. See now, so it can't be reached after I shut down. If I'm trying to access, it's refused. Okay. So the second way of starting is by going to command prompt and saying java -jar, and then I'm providing two tune-up parameters. One is the heap and the second one is permanent generation. Permanent generation is an area in memory which is a reflection of everything that the JVM holds. It could be your objects, it could be your variables, methods being invoked, and everything, right? So that's the second way of starting the server. Now, one more thing is whenever I start the server, there is a folder called CRX Quick Start, which is actually getting generated. Now, in the CRX Quick Start, right, there is something called, usually whenever you are working with any web application, you would have seen that there is something called bin. Bin has the batch scripts for the starting and stopping for the servers. Generally, in any Tomcat or any web application, if you work, you would have seen that. That's the same case in AEM. When you go to your CRX Quick Start, I see that there is a bin folder, and over here you have the stop.batch file and the start.batch file. So now the third way of starting an AEM instance, right? So if you look at the content of the start.bat file, you just need to double click this. Batch files do not get executed on Linux machines or on Mac. So for that you need to have a bash script. So for Unix, they have the start file here. So if you look at the difference between the start and start.bat, let me go inside. On which port I want to start AEM? Give me a moment, I will be back. So I want to start my server on 4502 instance, add author. The startup, the tuning parameters can be added over here. This is a batch file. The same thing on a Linux machine. Port, server name. Only thing is there is a bash, because there is a bash script. Okay, so now the third way of starting server is you would go inside CRX quick start folder and then double click this. Okay, it says waiting, starting the server. Again, our same debugging process. I will go to system console. We need to wait because it is still starting. Okay, it started. And moreover, can somebody think which way of starting the server is best among all these three ways? Okay, to stop it, you just have to click on the stop.bat instead of closing it. Okay, that's an understood thing. Instead of closing this here, you will say stop.bat. Now that you have seen all the three ways, one is double clicking. Second option is Java -jar. Third option is inside CRX quick start folder. I am double clicking. Anybody can logically reason which option is the best way over here? Any answers? Okay. So with the third way, I can only go inside the bin folder if CRX quick start folder is generated. And the CRX quick start, like we discussed, when it gets generated is if I start my server by double clicking or by saying Java -jar, which is the first or the second way only this bins. So the limitation with the third approach is I can start my server by double clicking start.bat only if my server has been started in the first or the second way. So that CRX quick start will be generated. So I have ruled out the third one. Now between 1 and 2, right? When I just double click the jar, I'm not able to add any tuning parameters like the maximum heap size, permanent generation or anything. So that's why the second way is the best way. Do you guys agree with me, everyone? Anybody has a question? Okay. Now that I have come to a logical point, okay, I will open this bridge for any questions if you may have for 2-3 minutes, and then I'll proceed with the next topic.
Hi Rajesh, this is Amuda.
Okay.
This is my first class.
Okay.
I have a question about this third method of starting the AEM author instance. You said there are two folders to start. One is start.bash and the other one is just start. So why are there two? I mean, you said something.
Batch files don't execute on Linux. Have you used a Mac or anything before? Batch files don't execute on Unix. Patel, can you go on mute, please? People who are not talking, can you be on mute always? Only when you want to speak, you can unmute yourself and come back. Okay, so except Amuda. All right. So you understand, right, Amuda? So batch files don't execute on Linux. That's the reason you need a bash script. So that's the reason the start.file has a bash script over here. See this bin bash?
Okay.
So if I'm working on a AEM instance on a Linux machine, I need to use this guy for starting it up.
Okay. Okay. For Windows and Macintosh, it's the other one, is it?
Mac also, see, Mac also has a Linux kernel, a Unix kernel,
Okay.
right? So Mac and Unix, you will use the start.
Okay. Okay. And for normal Windows machine, it's the other one with dot bash, is it?
Bat.
Yeah, bash. Okay.
Any other
Okay. Thanks.
questions?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Okay. Good. So with that, right now, you may ask me a question. Now, AEM, right? So sometimes in enterprises, you may already have an existing application server, right? Already an existing app server could be there like JBoss. You know that there are multiple app servers like Tomcat, JBoss, WebLogic, etc. Now, in such cases, when you have an app server, your AEM, you know that when you're starting AEM, there's already a web server. So you don't want two servers to conflict. So in case there is already an existing app server in your application, you need to deploy this entire AEM itself as a WAR file. WAR stands for Web Archive. For people who are new, you can always go and Google for any keywords that I'm reading. For example, somebody doesn't know what is a JVM, go ahead and Google for what is a JVM. Somebody who doesn't know how to set up JDK, just go ahead and YouTube. You can YouTube for anything, all these keywords that I'm adding, important ones related to Java if you're new to Java. Okay. So there is a web archive war distribution of AEM. Okay, in this training we do not get this. When you work for a client, so the way AEM works, AEM server works is the license file. Now I am providing the training license to you. Okay, so when you're working for a client, like let's say you're working for Citrix, because Citrix would have purchased this software from Adobe, there would be Citrix over here and a key. So the WAR file, you will get it for the client that you're working for. And let's say you're working for a client, usually 99% is standalone. Standalone means the one where I am just double clicking and bringing up the web server instead of deploying on any app server. But in case you happen to work for a client who uses an app server, there is documentation for different app servers. So you just go to this documentation and use it. Okay, this is not required, but just saying. As application developer, your job will be to work on this after the server has started. You would have the infrastructure or the admin team to do that, but good to know, right? For example, if I'm using Tomcat application server, this is the way you deploy the AEM on a Tomcat server. If you have, let's say, a WebSphere, this is the steps you would follow to deploy the AEM on a WebSphere. So this way, I've added this. I'm going to share this documentation with you. Okay? That's how you do it. Good to know. Now you need to know some history about AEM so that you will understand the different versions. Okay. So AEM or CQ, right? It can be synonymously used. Okay, both are the same. Initially, this product started by a company called Day Software, which was based out of a location called Basel in Switzerland. CQ stands for communicate. It started with the product version 1.0, 1.5, 2.0, like that kind of evolution happened. It is in 2008 that many clients started using the DayCQ software. Now, when a product is in demand, you have these large players like Adobe, Google, Microsoft, who actually go and acquire the software. That's the same thing that happened when it was version 5.5. Adobe acquired Day Software in 2010 when it was version 5.5. Then immediately in 2011, 5.6.1 version was launched. Okay, so then Adobe thought instead of calling it as DayCQ, we will call it as Adobe Experience Manager. So the naming of the software itself changed. So that's when they started calling it as AEM. So the version evaluation is something like this, right? It was 5.5 in 2010, 2011 5.6.1, 2013 6 was introduced, 14 6.1, 15 6.2, 16 6.3, right? Then you have 6.4 also, which is there, right? So this way our training is on 6.3. Okay, 6.4 is it will be launched very soon, next month. Okay, so this way the new features are being added and they're launching new releases. Okay, this is one. Now if you see, right, there are two views in AEM. What are the two views? One is a responsive view. The entire look and feel will be different. So if you see, if I say welcome.html, right, you would see that this is like a view that has been there since the beginning of time, right, when AEM was introduced. You would have a green background, green colored theme, green colored widgets. It is a non-responsive framework. What do I mean by a non-responsive framework? If you look at this on a mobile device, for author, right, this is definitely the author instance I'm on. So the authoring on a mobile device breakpoint will be something like this. Right. So over here, you see that there is a scroll bar to the right. Having scroll bars to the right is a very bad experience, and it's a old design. Okay. So Adobe thought, hey, it's a old design, and moreover, my content authors can still use mobile devices, right? Let's say if we are working for Fox News, which is a large news website, and my journalists are let's say in a location where some event disaster occurred, they need to author with mobile devices, right? They wouldn't obviously have laptops over there. So we need to support mobile authoring. Adobe thought, okay, this mobile authoring has to happen not only for AEM is just the content management product of Adobe. Adobe has several other marketing cloud solutions. Right? I don't know if you guys got a chance to look at any YouTube videos on Adobe Marketing Cloud. So AEM is building website. Just building website is not enough. You need to track how many unique users am I getting in a day. How many users are dropping off from my website. Which are the pages that are doing well on my website. Which are the pages which have more hits. Right? All these analytics data in it. So for that you have Adobe Analytics. For personalizing websites, you have Adobe Target. So you have multiple solutions, and for sending out campaigns, offers, promotions, you have another Adobe tool called Adobe Campaign. So these are all the marketing cloud solutions. So Adobe thought, okay, can I have one single look and feel across all the Adobe Marketing Cloud solutions? Okay, and it should be a responsive. Responsive means you shouldn't have this horizontal scroll bar that I showed you. Horizontal scroll bar means if I scroll, this mechanism is very bad. Okay, so a new framework. Okay, this green colored theme, everything is based on a JavaScript framework called EXTJS. So this green colored background is based on EXTJS framework. It's a class. This is called classic UI or legacy view. It's a non-responsive framework. This is the welcome page. Now, how do I? Obviously, AEM is used to build websites. So just navigate to this URL, websites. AEM has a lot of these built-in websites. Right? The reason Adobe gives you these built-in websites is for reference. Somebody who is learning needs to know the best practices of content modeling, best practices of naming, how the features can be leveraged in AEM. Page, collection of sites, right? page site is a collection of pages, and when I double click on any page over here, right, if I say cf hash will open the page URL in classic UI. Green colored background should come up. On the left side, whatever you see here, this is called as content finder, right? CF means content finder. So this basically has images. This palette over here is called as a sidekick. This is where all the components that an AEM developer builds would be shown up over here. Now this page is created by an author, not by the developer. The way author works is he says, okay, I need an image component over here, so I'm going to drag and drop an image over here. And I need this guy in the image, so I'll drag and drop an image. I feel I need a text over here, so this is the text component. On my page, I'm making it as a collection of components. I add a text, and I basically want to author something, right? Let's say I add some text. I could actually center align it and say, see this? This is the advantage, and directly this could be taken to live, right? That's the whole advantage of a CMS. Just give me a moment. Just give me one moment. Okay, so green colored background, this is classic UI. So I have added any page that you open. If you add the CF hash, this is classic UI. The other view is the same welcome page. Responsive framework. If you see, the concept of horizontal scroll bar is not there. All right, let's resize. See, it adjusts one below other. If I further resize, the 2-column grid over here become 1-column grid. This is responsive framework for you. This is what you need for authoring. And the same page to open on, this is called Touch UI. This is based on a framework called Granite, which we are going to learn in future. And if I open up, see this? This is a response. So over here, you don't have that content finder on the left and all those things. Here, rather, you see that there is a side rail. All the components and assets will be shown over here. Okay? Both I have added over here. Classic UI and you are going to learn both. Is this clear with everyone?
So, Rajesh, I have a doubt.
Okay, Anvesh, can you just, guys, all of you, can you just wait for 2-3 minutes? I just need to go back and come. I'll come back in. in 2-3 minutes. Okay, just hold on the call. Yeah, somebody had a question. Good, good.
Yeah, Rajesh. So my question was like, the classic UI is not responsive, right?
Hmm.
So when we publish the page will be responsive, right?
You see, only the authoring is not responsive. The
Okay.
website, end user, whatever is visiting is still responsive. If you use frameworks like Bootstrap, CSS3, all these UI frameworks, if you use, it will be there. Only authoring I am talking about over here.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Thank you.
Any other questions anybody is having? Okay, good. So, I don't know how many of you have enrolled with Srinivas. Okay, we are going. This is our first session. Tomorrow will be second, third, and so on. Okay, you need to enroll with Srini, make the payments, and attend tomorrow. Get the demo recording from him. If you feel I want to see one more of your video, which is the demo. Okay, so our continuation will happen post. Anyway, this batch is still going to run. For you to get added into this batch, please coordinate with Srinivas, and the others you can coordinate with Rani. Okay. Any questions do you have for me?
Uh,
Hey, hi Rajesh, is it Sri? I have a few questions. Can I go ahead?
Yes, yes.
Okay, as a developer, could you please help us understand like what all technologies one should know, like
Basics of core Java.
Mhm.
Okay, like inheritance, collection, uh, interfaces in Java, how to create objects in Java. Okay, that is okay. I don't know if you saw my demo recording. I had mentioned about the prerequisite. You didn't see that one?
I'm sorry, I think I didn't have link to that one. I had the
Okay.
other one, so that one I have
Okay.
seen.
See
Yeah.
here, the prerequisites is yeah here. What is your background? Have you worked on any core Java, HTML, CSS, all these things?
HTML, CSS I have worked on, but not on Java. So yeah. But
Hmm.
let me coordinate with Srinivas sir and
Yeah, no,
get
no, no,
this
no,
endeavor.
don't worry. There is, I'm adding all these topic lists on the chat window.
Thanks.
Okay, you need to know what is basics, just at elementary level, not even advanced level. Basics of JSP, basics of servlets. Okay, directives. Core Java, I need only two, three things like JVM, collections, inheritance, object, custom tag creation in JSP, JavaScript, basics of HTML and CSS. Okay, all these points I have written on the chat window. That is what, and you can there's also a YouTube link that I added. You can see this.
Uh, okay. And yeah, and my next question is like, does AEM have content approval and reviewing system
Yes,
in?
yes, yes. We have something called as workflows, which we are going to cover.
Okay. And can any other system be integrated with AEM? For example, you were showing the authoring.
Hybris, yes, you can integrate Hybris, you can integrate Salesforce, any system you can integrate. It is just that you will make API REST web service calls to that system, consume data, or you can push the data by making the post calls through web
Okay.
services. Yes.
So if we want to say, for example, create a rendition, for example, a PDF of a web content web page that
Hmm.
that is also possible because
Yes,
we
possible.
cannot integrate any other system, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
And I think one last question is like for the UI part, for like publish section of it, the UI it looks like should be customizable. So
Yes.
can one use Angular?
AEM, you can use Angular, you can use React, you can use Knockout.js. AEM, on top of AEM, you can use any Java framework and you can use any UI framework. Okay.
Okay, this helps. Thanks a lot.
You will just host a JavaScript library that could be jQuery, that could be Angular, React, Knockout, any framework.
Understood. Thanks.
Okay.
uh,
Any other question? Yeah.
Rajesh Amuda here. Like you said, today is the first session. I will talk to Srini about the coming sessions. But the
Today is
schedule,
actually demo. There was one demo last week. I don't know if you were there. Today is first. So total 2 we completed. Tomorrow will be like the third. You got the demo recording?
I guess, yeah, in the email, I guess he had included. I did not go through. I will go through.
Okay.
There was a schedule also. It said 20-day schedule, but it doesn't say the dates as such. So do you give us this date beforehand, or it's like continuous 20 days we will have the
It's a
session?
continuous 20 days unless I have a broken leg or if I'm not well or some emergency, I may call off on a day. It will be from today, Monday to Friday. It would be there.
Monday to Friday, the same time, is it?
Same time, 1 hour will be there.
Okay. And in case if we miss particular day, like if I have to travel or I have something else to some deployment or something, then uh, if I miss that day, then I will not get it back, right? I mean, you don't have any recordings for the day, or do you record your
Yeah,
sessions?
yes,
Okay. So we will get recording if I miss, like you
yes.
had your recording for demo, so
Even
you
if you don't miss, you will get it. Every day recording, you will get it.
okay. Okay, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will. Yeah, thanks. That's all.
Okay, guys. So let's drop off. Okay, we're already
Rajesh,
running. Yeah,
one more question.
yeah.
Yeah, when you going to share this jar file?
Now only after half an hour.
Okay.
Rajesh, is it a 6.2 training or 6.3 training?
6.3. 6.3.
Okay.
We will talk about all features, and at some point we will switch to 6.1 or 6.2 because in 6.3 there are no multiple reference sites. But if you're learning 6.2, you can work on 6.3 as well. So you are going to get both 6.3 and 6.1. Okay. There is a reason why we need to learn. For learners, we suggest 6.1 because you have multiple reference sites. But yes, surely you are going to be familiar with 6.3 as well.
Okay.
Rajesh, this is Prasanna here.
Okay.
You have my email ID, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
I think you need to enroll with these. I don't know whoever it is. I think you need to enroll with them.
Yeah, I'm coordinating
Anyway,
with
I'm
Rama.
not. Yes, I'm not involved in that part. So if she says okay, go ahead with Prasanna, like we would be adding you tomorrow. Okay. You will
Okay,
need to do whatever is needful for that. Okay.
okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think we've taken enough questions today. If you don't have anything, let's come back tomorrow. Okay. We'll look at the architecture of AEM tomorrow.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
Bye.